G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my first look at and gameplay overview of the multiplayer survival horror FPS, Nether. So, as you may have guessed, Nether falls into the same genre as DayZ and Infestation. A lot of people are hanging out for a solid multiplayer survival FPS, and I would even go so far as to say it's become a bit of a desperation genre, with people supporting games that probably don't really deserve it. As such, Nether is a welcome addition to the market, but it's a bit early for me to say whether this game is what people are after, but let's take a look at it anyway. I've put a few hours into Nether now, and I think it has a good amount of potential. It offers a similar experience to other games in the genre, but the developers are making an effort to differentiate it from the competition. Like other games in the genre, Nether is, at its core, a sandbox multiplayer game that features some survival elements and a common enemy. However, Nether differs itself pretty significantly through the actual enemies that you face, and by adding in some objective-oriented gameplay into the mix. But before we get into the gameplay mechanics, I just want to talk about the look and feel of this game. Nether runs on the Unreal Engine and is a much better looking game than other entries into the genre. You'll likely immediately notice the high levels of detail and lighting. In addition to helping with immersion, this also makes spotting your enemies or hiding yourself much more interesting, to say the least. The game is set in a pretty high density city with multiple storing buildings and large scale walkways. The tight quarters and overgrown vegetation make for a pretty tense experience overall. The aesthetics are nothing next gen for sure, but they are effective and they are a hell of a lot better than Infestation or DayZ. The game also plays fairly smoothly as well, guns handle reasonably well and your character feels responsive enough. It's no AAA FPS, but it works well enough. So let's talk about the common enemy that all players face. Rather than featuring the tried and true, but increasingly tiresome zombies, Nether features an array of creatures collectively known as the Nether. The unique challenges the Nether bring make for a pretty refreshing and downright terrifying change to this style of game. The Nether come in a variety of types loosely reminiscent of the special infected from the Left 4 Dead series, crossbred with the Minecraft Enderman. Most Nether can teleport and will use this ability mercilessly to appear behind you and circle you in groups. Combating groups of them alone is extremely difficult. The Nether hunt primarily by sound, so moving as quietly as possible around them is the name of the game. Running and jumping will often alert nearby Nether to your presence, and shooting will pull more in from further away, which can quickly overwhelm you. Falling off a walkway is also a surefire way to alert all of the Nether in the local neighbourhood, as has happened to me plenty of times. So the Nether are the primary threat, but there are a few more other ways to die in this game. To keep you moving and looting, you have an ever-decreasing food meter. Finding food to keep yourself alive forces you to explore the city and contend with both the Nether and other players. The scavenging for food mechanic is certainly nothing new, but it's a pretty core mechanic of this sort of game. It forces you to make a heap of decisions about how you want to keep your character alive. For example, do you keep mobile and riskily scavenge by yourself but reap the rewards of being able to have all of these supplies for yourself? Or do you cooperate with other players for safety and share your limited resources with them? Or finally, do you hunt other players and profit off of their scavenging efforts? So you have a few interesting decisions there. So it is a simple mechanic, but it keeps gameplay rolling and ensures that there is always a point of contention between players, which is really good. In addition to food, there are a few other things to keep you active and interested in the game. The quest for better weapons and more ammo is always a big one. Getting basic firearms isn't too difficult, but getting more serious firepower means venturing into more dangerous zones filled with Nether. It also means inevitable run-ins with other players. There is also some RPG character progression, where killing Nether will level you up and allow you to increase things like your firearm proficiency, your sneaking ability, or your melee damage. Getting a few levels isn't too tough, but staying alive long enough to max out your skills is going to take some serious work and skill. Next up, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Nether also adds some gameplay objectives into the mix to separate itself from the competition. Primarily, these objectives are the securing and defense of safe zones. Players must work together to clear out safe zones and activate anti-Nether devices during the day. At night, these safe zones are otherwise overrun by attacking Nether, and unless the anti-Nether devices are activated, they aren't all that safe. So once secured, these safe zones can become places to gather medicine, trade weapons, and trade for supplies, and from the looks of it, this system goes some way towards promoting cooperative gameplay, which tends to be neglected in these games. However, since the game currently is in closed beta with only a very small testing group, I've not really been able to experience these objective-based modes in much detail. With 64 player servers at launch, however, these could make for pretty interesting and dynamic experiences. My overall thoughts on Nether after a few hours are that the game shows a lot of promise and the developers appear to be actively working on some of the major problems with the genre, like stale, unthreatening enemies and uncooperative player bases. It's a bit early to call this game successful or otherwise in this regard, but I'm excited to see where Nether goes. Anyway, if you want to catch some more Nether gameplay and commentary, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.